Thomason. I'm with Lone Star News, and I'm here with Jim Wheeler. Mr. Wheeler is running for Wood County, Texas District Attorney in the 2022 primary election. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, guys, as most Wood County voting citizens are aware, the Lone Star News editor, and both citizen of Wood County and a member of the press, was denied access to record at two separate public forums. While many other people were allowed to openly record. Mr. Wheeler, do you believe our elected officials should follow the Constitution?
Of course we
And
should.
are you running as a constitutional candidate?
I am a constitutional candidate. It was part of what I did every time law enforcement submitted a case to me. I reviewed it for constitutional violations of overreaching by the government, because the result of that was the suppression of my evidence. In order to have cases that the public can have confidence in, you must stringently apply the Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendments of the United States Constitution as applied to the states of the 14th Amendment. Every time I submitted a case, it was to determine whether an individual's rights had been violated or if the evidence was going to be suppressed because of government overreaching. One of the duties that I have is just to yes, I'm a constitutional.
How do you feel about my constitutional rights, and what are your thoughts about the Constitution that every public servant is sworn to preserve, protect, and defend when taking the oath of office?
There's a lot to that question we need to unpack. Most of our public officials don't care about your constitutional rights unless it affects them in a negative way. Something about getting reelected. And if you assert your rights, they're thinking you're a pain or trouble. What a person claiming their rights is, or seeking public information from an office is an expenditure for the government official. And they're having to take a portion of their budget to answer you, and they're talking badly about you. And if a candidate is stringently following the Constitution and unelected people don't like it, they'll get rid of the elected person and put in somebody if they want. So think about an entity like the Federal Aviation Administration, and you have an elected congressman that says we're going to cut their budget. The director of the Federal Aviation Administration or some other functionary beneath that director will say, no they're not, we won't let them. That's how it really works. It's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable, right? But that's how it works.
You asked the question.
All right. Is there anything you would like to add?
Yes.
The floor is yours.
This county was founded by people that had an occupying force from the north that was armed in it. That led to the first native Texas governor being elected district attorney, Jim Hall, who was shot out here, as was his daddy. But he had a slogan, and I'd remind everybody of it. Too much government is a dangerous thing.
Absolutely.
If the government is constantly surveilled, if you're being recorded in your office, if your internet's being monitored and hacked, if your location is being tracked, if you're being attacked using taxpayer dollars when you're a law-abiding citizen, then the Constitution really doesn't mean anything, does it? Fundamental constitutional principles in the contract between the citizens and the government was leave us alone. That's what I think the Constitution means.
Well, Mr.
Go.
Wheeler, I want to thank you for giving us some of your time. It's been an honor and a pleasure to sit down and talk with you. Thank you. It's scary times right now, and I can tell you this right now, there's more people younger than me, older than me, who are getting more involved in these local elections just because they see what's going on across the nation. And you pick up your Wood County Monitor and there's nothing in it. You know, no one wants to report about what's really going on, and it's scary.
Do you know why?
Probably subscriptions, and they don't want to lose readers or they're scared to offend somebody.
Well, read a little bit about Katharine Graham and what they did in Washington on the Washington Post in Watergate. Papers are owned by people, so it's a monetary commitment, and those people have political agendas. I remember when Pat Stacy, who was the general manager at KLTV, was attacking me on the Mineola Swingers Club investigation.
I remember that.
Said it was he said a lot of things, but he said I was hiding something after his fair look at it. Well, grand juries are secret, aren't they? Of course he didn't know everything, but he said the work that we did was illegitimate. There were 2 weeks of missing license plate numbers out of the Austin database. License plates that were at that facility. The person who owned that club had gone to the prosecutor in Tyler and said none of those people were in my club, and he told him to go away, they didn't need him, didn't reveal it to the defense. And the owner of the club told me a Texas Ranger was a member of the club.
Mr. Wheeler, I'd like to ask you a question, if you don't mind, sir. And it's on the same topic we've been on. Why do you think our founding fathers even started writing up the Constitution?
George Washington was growing crops, and he had a great harvest one year, and he made zero money. Government took all of it to pay his bills and everything that he owed back in England. What's a man going to do when he's busting his tail, harvesting his crops, and ends up in debt? That was part of it. Part of it was being occupied by a foreign army that was armed and being forced to do what they were told by people that they could not change because they had no voice.
And my last question would be, why do you think they took it upon themselves to make the First Amendment the First Amendment and not the rest of the amendments?
Because individuals have been silenced before, and that needed to stop.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree.
Deserves a dab.
I couldn't agree more. Well, that's...
Guys, tell the truth, even if it hurts.
That's what we're trying to do, and I think my followers will see that. I'm like you, I'd rather be out fishing today, I'd rather be out playing with my grandkids. There's a lot of things I'd rather be doing than poking a stick in a hornet's nest here in my own county.
Well, an elected official isn't a game show host. What you're doing when you're a district attorney is you're taking people's lives. You're cutting off parts of it, or all of it, and you're taking their property away from them. So it's serious, and as far as the rest of this stuff out here, I was told when I came into office I'd either be voted out or prosecuted out. Nobody trying to help other people, even when they foul up, ought to be told that and enter into a race under that threat. I've done this job. It was hard. I didn't enjoy it, but I did it. I didn't want to run for that final term, but my opponent asked me to. And then all this stuff happened. But the county asked me for help. Some of the folks up there said it's bad up here. I'll tear it down to the studs and build it right, put somebody in place that folks can trust. But I'm under no misimpression. I understand what's been done to me and my reputation and my family. And
The question I've got for you, as soon as this truck goes by, and it's not really a question, it's more of a statement, is I've been contacted by a lot of the citizens in the county too. Like I said, I'd rather be fishing or doing something else than this because it's dangerous with what's going on in this county right now. We all know is we're not safe. I want to put in office, whether it's a judge or a district attorney, or I know the judge don't have anything really to do. The county judge is more like over misdemeanors and stuff like that, and works at as the head of the commissioner's court. And the JPs have a little bit of power. The district judge has got a little bit more power, but I think the DA in our county is at least equal to the sheriff in the county. I know the state of Texas said the sheriff is the top law enforcement, but we want a district attorney that doesn't just look at all of us pesky citizens like it's a number on their win record, and talking them into taking a plea bargain. Sometimes not even knowing much about if they're really guilty or not, but trying to get that percentage up. I would like to vote for a district attorney that's not on that team and not on this team, but it's kind of somewhere in the middle, like a judge should be, and looks at both sides of the deal. And if you see that a case is a BS case and somebody's just trying to get arrest on their win list, whether it's a sheriff or a deputy or a simple, down to a policeman, and kind of look at those cases deep before just, like you said earlier, sometimes these cases have no merit, and citizens that don't have the money for a 10, 20, 30, 50, $100,000 lawyer, according to what they've stacked up on you is, because I've been through it, we have to plead guilty to those little minor charges because we can't afford justice. And I think justice is blind in some of our counties, and I think it's up to you or whoever is the district attorney in this county every time from now on to open up the eyes a little bit of justice. And I'm for the bad people too. I want them put in, and I know there's some bad ones out there. I want them in jail. I want them in prison. I want them off the streets. I want my kids, my grandkids protected. But I don't want any other people or kids or citizens from now on getting charges stacked up on them that they end up dropping later. And somebody might sit in jail and lose their job and lose their kid, can't see their kid, and ruin their life. And so I think you get my point, what I'm trying to get to.
Do you know how I met Becky?
No, sir.
I represented a guy named Yost when I first moved out here. He had been charged with 13 or 14 counts of aggravated sexual assault of a child. There's nothing more terrifying than representing somebody who's actually innocent. And I picked that jury. And Mr. Yost, he couldn't hear. He could read lips, but he didn't do sign language. So he sat next to me, and Becky was court reporter. And she ran a computer over to him, and he was reading what was on the screen during the trial. So I tried. And he lived in a mobile home with a half dozen kids, no locks on the door, and the young lady making the allegation wanted to live with another family in Minnesota, as I recall. And she had been at a party, and I found two other kids who had walked in on her in flagrante. And she had said to the sexual assault nurse examiner she'd never had sexual relations before. So she lied. So I tried that case where he was facing life. And the jury came back not guilty. And he laid his head over when it popped up on his screen. Becky wrote the words "not guilty," and he started crying. Mr. Yost was ruined. And he was not guilty. So those people in the Mineola Swingers Club, when I said there was no evidence to corroborate them being in there, I found a bunch of people that said no children have been in there, including the owner of the club. You got to protect the innocent. If the government starts attacking innocent people, you can directly tie that into why we have a United States Constitution. Carve you in the side of the mountain.
That's all, folks.